Policymakers and politicians are not talking enough to entrepreneurs and others to understand what needs to be done today and tomorrow. Look at Kerala. 473,000 people left Kerala in 2023. Why? There are no jobs in Kerala. The communist regime is a failure. Look, I think people are carrying unnecessary fear about AI without understanding what AI is. People are migrating to the top cities. Wages are down because too many people are coming. India needs middle-class jobs. We need jobs in banking. We need office jobs, etc. We need high-tech jobs. We need jobs in AI. We need jobs in research. We need jobs in education, etc. To create the kind of jobs, for that we have to use technology. We have to use automation. We have to become more efficient. If we need labor-intensive jobs in the poorest districts of this country, we are the fastest growing economy in the world. State government and central government spend 110 lakh crores a year. So the challenge in India is multifold. One, a large number of jobs are being created in the south of the country. India will require a lot of capacity to meet our own needs.
Hey everyone, welcome to Work-Life Vertex. This is where ideas meet impact. Today, we launch our very first podcast episode and we are glad that you are here. So today, we dive into a big question. From demographic dividend to economic power, is India getting its job story right? And our guest today is known for asking the questions that actually matter and answering them without conviction. It's a special honor to welcome the very first guest who sets the tone for the podcast. We have with us Mr. Mohandas Pai.
Thank you.
So now, a brief intro about Mr. Mohandas Pai. I think he doesn't require an intro as such. But still, Mr. Mohandas Pai, former Infosys CFO and board member, is now the chairman of Aryan Capital. He is one of India's most influential voices on jobs and entrepreneurship. So Pai sir, welcome to the very first episode of our podcast.
Thank you. You spoke about the geopolitics and what's happening on the world. And indeed, there's a lot of stress happening on the world. President Trump decides every morning what he wants to do that day. And what he does, nobody knows. And he shakes up the whole world. So this uncertainty is something nobody could even understand or even think could happen. Plus, we have the Ukraine war still going on. We have the Europeans trying to contain President Putin. On top of that, we have a very big macro issue which people are not paying attention. And that is, the world is aging and declining in population in many countries. We have a population globally today of about 8.2, 8.3 billion people. 30% of the world's population is aging and declining rapidly. China lost 2 million people the year before, maybe last year another 2 million. Japan's population declining by 1 million. Korea is declining. Southeast Asia is declining. And then we have in Russia is declining. Where large parts of Europe are declining. I read a piece of data in 2024, I think. The European population went up by about 2 million. And they were about, 4.5 million people who died. And the balance 2.5 million or 3 million people are the people who came as immigrants. So you have Europe, which would have declined in population, except for the fact that they had immigrants coming in. And if you look at other countries too, Italy, etc., you're seeing population aging. The median age in Europe is about 47 years. In Japan is 47 years. China is 39. India is 29. And if you look at maybe 20, 30 years, 50% of the world's population will be declining in absolute numbers. So when the world is aging rapidly and declining in absolute numbers, it impacts economic growth. And there are not enough young people to work globally to support older people. Even Russia doesn't have enough young people to work in Russia for the growth. Japan certainly doesn't have. There's a labor shortage. China may face it maybe 10 years from now because the Chinese working age population is shrinking. And many things are happening. And this is a bigger issue than possibly President Trump doing something tomorrow morning. So I think it's important to understand that. And in this, India is the only large country with a younger population. And what we are going through is the youth bulge. Between 1990 and 2010, we had about 50 crore young people being born. We produced 2.5 crore children every year for the last 30 years. They're reaching the age of 21. They want jobs. They're finishing education. We graduate 1 crore young people every year. We have 4.5 crore people in college. And 1 crore come out of college every year. We are producing about 1.3, 1.4 crore jobs. 1.16 million or 13 million jobs as per the EPFO, because under EPFO you have to pay a subscription, is linked to Aadhaar. So these are real jobs, but 80% of jobs don't pay more than 25,000 rupees. So the challenge in India is multifold. One, a large number of jobs are being created in the south of the country, because the south of the country is the richer part and they're growing very well. The north of the country has a lot of people coming off the land and coming off education, and they're not getting jobs there, so they have to migrate down south. And the migration happens from UP, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Bengal and Bihar, Jharkhand, except that in UP the migration has become less, primarily because of the great work that Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath is doing there. A lot of development is happening there. But Bihar and Bengal and Jharkhand, people are coming down south, and they are the ones who work in the construction industry, in the service industry. And we have a lot of young people from the northeast coming down south. If you go to a remote part of Kerala in a restaurant, you'll find a northeastern young woman working there. And it's very shocking. They come a long way and they're working there. They're very pleasant and they seem to prosper in customer service. So you're seeing a country in a state of flux with many moving parts. And the key thing for this country is we are in the midst of a youth bulge. That bulge will remain for the next 10, 15 years. In the last 2 or 3 years, the number of babies being born has come down to maybe 2.3 crores, and it will come down to 2 crores possibly by 2030. But they'll take 20 years to grow up. But the impact will be felt 20 years from now. And people are living longer. I think the average lifespan of an Indian now is about 75, 77 years.
Oh, so I used to think other way around. The lifespan is reducing now.
No, it's not reducing. This is going longer. If you look at infant mortality, it is about, I think, 27, 29 per thousand. Maternal mortality has come to 125 for 100,000 births. So on health indices, India is doing well, except in some parts of India. Kerala is doing very well. Karnataka is doing reasonably well. Tamil Nadu is doing well. But the key thing that we have to understand is we are producing a lot of jobs. A lot of the jobs are being produced in the south of this country. But we are not producing enough good jobs, say, paying 50,000 rupees a month. I would say that people aspire for a minimum of 50,000 rupees a month, and that you must produce 70-80% of job produced should pay that, and which should not be very difficult to generate that. But we have to do a lot more work. We have to grow faster. We are a $4 trillion economy now. We grew from 2 trillion about 10 years back to 4 trillion now. And quite possibly, if we grow at the same pace, we could grow to 10 trillion by 2035, provided that the rupee dollar doesn't depreciate so much. The growth that we see in the economy is not seen in dollars because the rupee has depreciated 3.5% a year for the last 30-35 years. And that is the concern. And hopefully even that will be settled very soon for various other reasons. So I would say that we are in the midst of a youth bulge. The youth bulge exacerbates the problem of creating large number of jobs. And we must understand, no country in human history has created the quantum of jobs or the quality of jobs required that India needs today. Let's be very clear. Don't compare India with any country. Nobody has 2.5 crore young people coming attained the age of 21. Even China at peak, I don't think it did it. China today has only about 90 lakh children being born. Their fertility has come to maybe 1.3, 1.4. Whereas India's fertility 2021, if I'm right, was 2.0, which is below replacement. The whole of the South is below replacement. And even in UP and Bihar, it is coming down. Bihar is about 2.8, UP is about 2.4 or 2.2. About 3 years ago, we got to see the latest data. It should come out in the next 6 to 8 months. So I would say that we have a challenge.
Now, the global economy is clearly shifting from free-flowing globalization to friendshoring, tariffs, and geopolitically driven supply chains. So in this new world, what kind of jobs should India actually be focusing on creating, and which old assumption about job do we need to let go of? So because this time, the global rules won't wait for India to catch up.
Well, I think that is a very motherhood statement that's being made. But let's understand the context. India will require a lot of capacity to meet our own needs. We got to build infrastructure, we got to build roads, we got to build ports, we got to build houses, we got to build airports. There's a shortage of everything. And Indians are becoming richer. Bangalore has a population of 1.3 crores. There are 25 lakh people working in technology. Bangalore GDP is something like $180 billion. Bangalore's per capita income is around $15,000. $15,000 with a PPP multiple of 4 is equal to $60,000. So it's a rich city. We got 26 lakh cars. And it's a city which is suffering from prosperity because people who run the city, the government, doesn't know how to handle prosperity. They know how to handle poverty, where they live in a very prosperous environment, and the rest of us can live in a very bad environment, because that's the way they've been thinking, that's the way they've been brought up a long time ago. If you look at Bangalore, Bangalore is a global city. It's more human capital in technology than any city in the world. California has only 15 lakh people in technology. Bangalore has 25 lakh people. Bangalore hires 150 to 200,000 people in technology every single year. So, I mean, it's a very different scenario. So, India is a sum of parts of all these different areas. Some areas where nothing happens, some areas where a lot of things happen. So, it's very difficult to prescribe what needs to be done for India. So, when you talk about the globe, what should India do? India needs labor-intensive jobs. So we need jobs in garments, we need jobs in textile, we need jobs in infrastructure. India needs middle-class jobs, where we need jobs in banking, we need office jobs, etc. We need high-tech jobs. We need jobs in AI, we need jobs in research, we need jobs in education, etc. So India cannot say we must jettison this job and that job. India needs jobs to meet our own needs, because we have a very large internal market. And we are part of this world where we are the fastest growing economy in the world. All right. So we have to invest across the board. But the key for us as India is we have to grow faster. And to grow faster, growth is led by two things: consumption and investment. We are investing more than $1 trillion every year, 92 lakh crores last year. And I think it's important to understand that India invests more than $1 trillion. There are only 3 or 4 countries which invest more than $1 trillion. I mean, don't believe all the reports say India is not investing enough. India is investing. India needs more money, needs more capital. That is the cue. And the second thing that we must understand is consumption is growing at 7-8%. And that's not bad. Consumption is growing at 7 to 8% in real terms. And that is not bad. And I think the income levels are coming. But can we grow at 8 to 9%? Yes. We should grow at 8 to 9%. China grew from 1978 to maybe 2020 at about 9.9%. And we have grown at 8.2% in dollar terms from 1991 till 2025. And that's very commendable. We grew from 275 billion to 3.94 trillion in 34 years. And that's fantastic. So India has to grow faster. India has to create labor-intensive jobs. So India has to export. The biggest challenge for us is no country has grown without exporting. When the United States grew, it was a major exporter. It dominated global markets, right? When Japan grew, it dominated global markets. When Germany grew after the war, it dominated global market. When Southeast Asia grew, it dominated global market. Taiwan grew, it dominated global markets. When Europe grew, it dominated the world by colonization. Right? So India's exports are just about, I think, 850 billion, if I'm right, 850 or 900 billion. And that's very small compared to a GDP of 3.94 trillion. And out of 850 billion, the goods part are about 460, 470. And I think the services part will be about 380 or something. So we have a surplus on services about 215 billion. Deficit on goods last year about 280 billion. So we have a hole in the balance of payment process because of the deficit export-import. And that is what is causing the rupee depreciation. So I would say that in this geopolitical turmoil where supply chains are changing, India must focus on exports. And exports must be done by the top 500 companies. And today, the top 500 companies are extremely profitable. Pre-tax profit of the corporate sector, listed and unlisted, is 15.4% of GDP, which is very high, one of the highest in the world. Because of the lack of enough competition, because we shut the market against many importers, these people can prosper. But if big companies want to grow 15-20%, they have to export, because India is too small a country for them to grow 15-20% a year. So we are in a very sweet spot. We have to change the way we do business. We have to tackle global markets for all our big companies. We have to become much more efficient. We have to use technology. And in technology too, we have to grow. We're the third largest digital power, but our investment levels are low. We invested about $170 billion into venture and startups between 2014 to 25, whereas China did $845 billion and America did $2.34 trillion. So we have challenges, but I think we are doing pretty well.
You said that we have to start exploring in all the sectors and labor has to be created in all the sectors as such. There's a small myth over here. See, for decades, India has been assumed that cheap labor and IT services would automatically create jobs. And in this new world of automation and tariffs, which of India's long-held job assumptions are actually dangerous myths today?
I think there's great prospects for India in manufacturing, because China is 30% of global manufacturing. India is the 5th largest manufacturing power. The top is China, United States, Germany, and then Japan, and then India. India is not a small player. We are the second largest producer of steel, third largest producer of automobiles. We are the third largest producer of electricity, largest producer of two-wheelers. And in construction, we make about 1.5, 1.6 billion square feet, maybe the second or third in the world. In most areas of traditional industry, we are number 2 or 3 globally. So I think people's making some snide remarks that India is not manufacturing is not enough, except we must export. And to export, we have to reduce our costs. We have to become more efficient. For example, Sajjan Jindal made a remark that the Indian steel industry has an operating margin of 13 to 15%. China has 3 to 4. China exports 120 million tons of steel. We export maybe 3 to 4 million tons of steel. Why can't we export 50 million tons of steel? But we have to produce the steel and we have to invest in the steel. And that is happening. Today we produce 165 million tons of steel. I hope by 2030 we'll produce some 280, 300 million because people are investing. So a lot of things are happening, but we have to export for the next phase of growth to create the kind of jobs. For that, we have to use technology, we have to use automation, we have to become more efficient. We need labor-intensive jobs in the poorest districts of this country. In the smaller towns, we need to create a quality of life so that service-level jobs can come, for example, like Mangalore. And I think it's important to work at multiple levels, multiple strategies, get this all good. Because India's experience is unique like China. Anybody can advise you to say that follow this model, but there's no country with 1.4 billion people. Well, implementation will happen, but we need to have the right strategies and investment directions.
Even if GCCs and manufacturing and tech grow, coming to the future ahead, so can they really absorb India's millions of young job seekers? Or are we overestimating how many jobs these high quality sectors can actually create?
Well, I think you must understand that if you get a global job in technology, it probably creates 2 or 3 jobs downstream. See, let me give you some data because I think it's important for people like you to have data. We have 6 million people, 60 lakh people working in software exports. That's $235 billion. $235 billion is the largest export of services for any country globally. 60% of global outsourcing comes here. And employment is going up in the sector at maybe 300 to 500,000 people a year. But in the context of India, when about maybe 16 million, 17, 18 million people require jobs, that's a small number. Our banking sector may absorb 100,000, 200,000 jobs. Government will absorb 700,000 jobs. So if you added all the things, maybe 10 lakh jobs, 1 million jobs will be in decent sectors. All right? But we need more. Right? So 1 million jobs are not enough. So that's why I said 20% of jobs pay more than 25,000 rupees. And that we have to do. To create the jobs, we have to urbanize. See, our political class believes that India lives in villages. We don't live in villages. Because the 2001 census said urban areas were 26% of population. Now we're going to have a census this year or next year. We could be 45%. Our semi-urban could be another 10%. So people are coming to cities. They don't want to live in villages. And in cities, we have to invest, we have to develop. India spends 10 lakh crores a year on subsidies, both center and states. But how much money do we spend on urbanization, smaller town? Peanuts. So we have to invest in the 5,000 small towns. So these towns become the agents of growth. We have to create incentive for job in the rural areas because labor is coming off the lawn and labor could be cheaper. And then we have to grow the top cities so that high quality jobs can come in. So now what is happening? People are migrating to the top cities. Wages are down because too many people are coming. They live in slums. They don't have a quality of life. Everybody's quality of life goes away. The small towns are growing, but they can grow much faster. And the rural areas can grow if you provide jobs for those people in those areas. The quality of life will be better. Why should somebody staying in Jharkhand come all the way to Bangalore and live in a very bad place earning 12, 15,000 rupees? So we have to focus on urbanization because urbanization is the key to the growth of the country. And like I said, people don't want to live in villages. They're coming. Look at Kerala. I think 2023, I read a report 2 days back which said 473,000 people left Kerala in 2023. Why? There are no jobs in Kerala. The communist regime is a failure. Out of which 173,000 came to Karnataka, basically Bangalore. Why are they coming to Bangalore? Young people are getting jobs. And I think if you look at Bengal, 3 generations of young Bengalis have left Calcutta and left. We have more Bengali software engineers in Bangalore than in Calcutta or in Bengal. So in many of these, for Mangalore, there are more Mangaloreans, young Mangalores outside Mangalore than in Mangalore. Because you graduate 50,000 young people, maybe 20, 25,000 are locals, balance could be from outside, and 80, 90% will leave the city. So what happens to the city? It will be a city of old people. There'll be old people sitting down in big houses which they have built with their savings, waiting for the children to come back, will never come back. Right? So we have to have a strategy of creating jobs in the smaller cities. If smaller cities grow, they can get a lot of jobs, they will do well, people will stay back, they will build houses, they will have their families here, and it will be good. You go to the United States, there's so many small good towns. You go to Europe, so many small good towns with high quality of life. Why? Jobs have been created there. Even in Tamil Nadu, it's got 10 or 12 towns where jobs have been created. Karnataka has not invested in all these small towns. The government has not invested enough in Mangalore. They're not invested enough in Hubli Dharwad. They're not invested enough in Shimoga. Unless you invest, you create infrastructure, you create good mobility, you will not get jobs. And if you don't get jobs, where will people go? They'll migrate. And in a few years, there'll be nobody left except old people. If you go to Kottayam, there's so many big houses there where old people in the 70s, 80s, waiting for their children to come back, will never come back. Many of them are left, gone to other cities, or they're gone to overseas. And these old people are waiting every day when the door will open, when somebody comes, they'll never come back. Their lives are over. And after them, what happens? In Japan, 10% of property is unclaimed. Because the people who own them are gone away. They're dead. Nobody owns the property. Children don't own the property because they have to pay death duty. So we are in a very precarious situation in many parts of India because we have the wrong strategies. We have to invest in smaller towns. We have to grow the smaller towns. We have to grow the villages and distribute jobs and prosperity all around.
So if trade is no longer neutral and can be weaponized overnight, India cannot bet on everything at once. So where should India place its biggest bet for growth and jobs? Is it exports, domestic demand, or services?
I think everywhere, all three, there's no exclusiveness. You have to increase manufacturing because when the economy becomes prosperous and it grows, the people are going to buy many things and you have to manufacture instead of importing. You have to export because you want more jobs to be created because the workforce, the youth bulge is very large. And you have to focus on services because the world is short of services. There's a great demand for services. India is the third largest digital power. And in the digital area, in the area of AI, in the area of technology, India is a major player. And India is the largest provider of human capital in this particular area for the global markets. So in all areas, India has to do because we can't pick one small area. We're not a small city-state like Singapore.
Can a country with limited state capacity really execute on all three simultaneously? If India had to prioritize, which bet deserves political capital first?
I think political capital should be focused on job creation. Because people vote. If a political party wants to come to power, they have to create jobs. I don't see the confusion. People vote. Chairs don't vote. Buildings don't vote. People vote. And today people want good job for the children. They want economic prosperity. So I think it's very important for everybody to understand it's not either or. What is required? Good policies. Incentivize job creation in rural areas. Second, invest in smaller towns. There's enough money. State government and central government spend 110 lakh crores a year. 10 lakh crore is spent on subsidies. There's enough money in this country. In the direction of where you invest the money, that's important. How you incentivize people to invest is important. So I don't think it's a question of prioritizing and doing this or that because that's not going to work. There cannot be. You create policies for creating and create policies for smaller towns, and smaller towns will take off. Improve governance in the smaller towns, create right zoning regulations, incentivize people to build, and then in the bigger towns, you make sure there's better global mobility. Bigger towns are economic engines of growth. They got money. They can easily, build metros and they can build public transportation, which is important because that improves productivity.
From lifetime jobs to portfolio lives, now let's discuss about the end of the linear career. So Infosys created structured career ladders for millions of first-generation professionals. So what replaces that in the world of AI or startups or remote jobs as such?
Look, I think people are creating unnecessary fear about AI without understanding what AI is. AI has three layers. The first layer is the large LLMs, which is now dominated by American companies. There is no other company apart from Chinese companies which are in this field. There's nobody from Japan, there's nobody from Germany, there's one company from France, which is okay, and there's only companies from China. like DeepSeek, and that company is not going to grow global. It'll go global, but they won't have the same impact. So America all the way. We don't have a company because we don't have the capital. We're not put in money. We don't have hyperscalers to train the machine. The second layer of AI will be vertical AI and agentic AI, where the big software service companies like Infosys and Wipro are investing heavily, and they are the ones who are going to use AI in global enterprises. Global enterprises cannot buy ChatGPT, put it inside and say work. It doesn't work. So people must have the right views about what is happening and not create unnecessary fear. So they're going to create huge quality jobs in AI. We are the largest AI trained workforce in the world. Out of 6 million people, 4.5 million people have been trained in the use of AI. It is not writing code for LLMs. It is how to use AI for business, how to run business. And that's going to happen. Yes, many jobs are going to be eliminated, which are rule-based, but many more jobs are going to be created in India. Outside in America, yes, the good quality jobs will shrink because it's a very fat economy and there are many people who get overpaid for doing things which can be done easily by an AI. And the third level are AI in application, which many small companies are doing. In our office in Bangalore, we got 700, 800 AI first companies coming and asking for capital. So it's happening in a very big way. The world has not spent enough money on AI. Enterprises have not spent enough money on AI. Enterprises are not changed the way they work using AI too much. And that's the news we get from all these companies. Every quarter when they announce results, they say, yes, AI-based work is now becoming easy. We're starting projects, we're doing this, etc. So I think, yes, everybody is trying to create fear about AI. Yes, the fears are real. The question is when. And India is not going to lose so many jobs because we are growing. We have to meet local demand, overseas demand. And we are the ones who are going to enable global corporations to use AI. There's nobody else who can do that in the scale and quality that's required.
So nowadays, what companies face is coming to, loyalty and commitment. Now, because most of the people who work, they don't want to stay in a company for a longer time as such. So would you like to say something about this as well?
I think, it's a natural function of a fast-growing economy with a lot of opportunities. If you're very smart and very active and very productive, you want a career ladder much faster than what any companies can give. Some of them may get, everybody will not get. They will leave, they go somewhere. For example, today I made a study of Infi, and there are 500,000 Infosians outside, 345,000 inside. They got an attrition of 12-13%. The whole industry, with 600,000 people, have got an attrition of 12%. TCS has got 12-13%. 12-13% for TCS is 70,000 people. They laid off some 11,000 people, and people are saying, oh, jobs are going, laying off. They didn't have the skills. They're a mismatch of skills. So, or maybe bad performance. But they got 12% attrition. Why will 12%, 70,000 people leave TCS when they laid off only 12,000? So people don't understand numbers. The media doesn't have numbers. Commentators don't understand numbers. So just make some loose remarks because it catches attention, creates fear. But I think this is a churning that happens. If so many people are going to lose their job by AI is going to sweep the world, why is 720,000 people leaving companies and going where? They're going to another company. They're getting jobs. So why is the attrition 12% for the entire industry for 6 million people? They're going getting jobs. Why will people leave somebody if they don't get another job? So we have to understand what is happening in a bigger way and better way.
So 10 years ago, did you imagine that India would be here today? And what surprised you the most?
In 1999, I remember I went to the Indian Institute of Science. I was much younger then, maybe 41 years, hot blood. In a seminar, I said, India's software exports will be 50 billion by 2010. There's an old government official, they laughed at me and he said that, look, this gems and jewelry has got 5-6 billion, you're just 2 billion, you're going to be 50 billion. Ha ha ha, he said. Then I told him, man, please understand, if India doesn't do it, Indians will do it. So we had confidence even then, and the confidence will remain. I'm 85-90% certain we'll cross 10 trillion, provided the rupee dollar rate remains by 2035. There's a model, there is work, there is happening. I watch data. So I'm not surprised about how India has grown. Maybe disappointed is not grown a little bit faster.
Now, the final thing that we'd like to ask you here is that if there's one thing India must get right in the next 20 years to turn our population into true economic power, what is it going to be according to you?
Well, if there's one thing India must do to create economic power, reduce the cost of capital. There are two things important for any country to grow. Labor productivity, capital productivity. And that doesn't change. Labor productivity, people do more and more output per hour. And that's happening because of automation, because of technology. And capital productivity. Our capital productivity is very good, except it's too high. The returns for the Nifty 500 is 14% on equity, which is very high. If you look at any $4 trillion economy, United States, China, Germany, Japan, India, less than 4 trillion, UK and France, all of them have a cost of capital of 6 to 9%. India is 11 to 12%. That means when we grow, a lot more of the money that we earn goes to providers of capital, which is very high. And because the cost of capital is so high, people who give money demand greater returns. So a lot of money cannot go to infrastructure. Government has to spend. Because infrastructure to earn 11, 12% is difficult. You can earn 7, 8%. In the US, if you earn 7, 8% infrastructure, you invest. Here you have to get higher returns. NTPC earns 14% post-tax on equity. SBI is earning 20% on equity. ICICI Bank has got 4.5% spread on his entire loan book, entire asset, and HDFC is 2% return on asset. They are earning absurd amounts of money because of lack of competition. And we have to reduce the cost of capital by reducing the cost of government borrowing, by doing many things, by reducing the India premium for overseas investors because of tax terrorism, judicial delays, and lack of policy certainty. And we have to make sure that we attract more capital to reduce so that we can make greater investment. So I think the way path ahead is very clear and we are in very good shape. Our banking system is very clean. They're making obscene amounts of money as profits. Their investment is 1.2. The capacity to invest more is limited. We don't have execution capacity. Projects are going behind. Money is coming in. You can borrow money from outside. A lot of capital is available. So I think we are in a very good, and we got many good companies which are doing very well, earning huge amounts of money, highly profitable. Our market cap is 5.3 trillion or something, which is very good for a country of our size. So a lot of good things are happening. Except that policy changes have to happen. The problem is today is the policymaker, knowledge asymmetry between policymakers who live in a different world and what is required on the ground. Policymakers and politicians are not talking enough to entrepreneurs and others to understand what needs to be done today and tomorrow. China does long-term perspective planning and invested. They said many years back they're going to put $150 billion into AI. They did that. They put $300 billion into electric vehicles and solar. They're the world leader. They planned for it. They spoke about it. They built it. They're the world leader. In biotechnology, they become the world leader. They become a bigger player in biotechnology in the US. And it's not funny. It's taken hard work, many years, and put money. So India should do that in a big way. For that, the thinking in Delhi should change. Thinking in Karnataka should change. For our chief minister, who's maybe 77, 78, giving 5 kg rice to 80% of Kannadigas is very big. 5 kg rice, free rice. He thinks it's a big thing. I'm giving guarantees, 60,000 crores guarantees. We are not that poor that we need guarantees. Karnataka is the richest state in India. But for our chief minister, 77-year-old politician, giving 5 kg rice, the biggest achievement of his life. How can it be? You ask any Kannadiga parent, what do they want? They say, we want good education for children. We want good job for our children. We don't want this 5 kg rice. For him, his 5 kg rice is important. Why is he spending 5 kg rice? 70% of faculty positions in our state universities and colleges are vacant. 70%. How will the children get good education there? It is a misplaced priority because of lack of understanding, because they stopped thinking long ago. They're still thinking of the 90s and others. If you go to the Congress party in Delhi and see what they're thinking, they're thinking this is a poor country where only they can give some money like this. That's not the way it is. India has done very well. We have to create jobs. We have to focus on that. We've got to focus on infrastructure, not giving doles. In Karnataka, 60% of women above the age of 21 get 2,000 rupees. To 60% require the dose. I'm sure you'll also get 2,000 rupees a month. I hope you're not applied. And 60-70% get free power, 200 units. Why do you give free power? Many women in software companies are going for the free bus transport. They say we save 1,500 rupees a month. They get paid 1 lakh a month, 60,000 a month, they're going in the free bus. This is perversion. Give it to the poor. In Karnataka, not more than 15-20% are poor. Make 20%, give it to them. It is okay. Give a good old age pension, it's okay. But invest in higher education. Invest in infrastructure. Create more jobs. That should be the focus. India's focus should be jobs, jobs, jobs. And jobs in small town.
So thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you. And I think our team deserves a pat on their back for making it possible that you are here and part of our first podcast there. Thank you so much once again. It was a pleasure having you on our show.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. Thank you.